Welcome everyone to Coaches for Good webinar. My name is Maisa Khalil. I'm one of the co-founders. I'm joined here by the rest of the team. And before I introduce our speaker, just to let you know that this session will be recorded and will be shared on our social media platform later on. I'm so excited and I'm honored to introduce our speaker today, Rania Barghout. Rania is a former TV presenter. She is a public speaking instructor. She is a licensed and certified life coach and career coach. And she's the founder of Playbook.
I'm one of the founders of Playbook.
Yeah,
Authentic
one of the
Women.
founders, yes. And Authentic Women Coaching. And please, Rania.
I'm just very, very happy that you invited me to this webinar, Maisa, and it's very nice to meet you all and talk to you all about my journey. If I can say it's a journey, of course, every one of us has a journey in life, and my journey was a little bit of a not a very straightforward journey, but it got me to where I am today. So from the beginning, I was a TV presenter. I think probably it was all by mistake. I became a TV presenter. I was studying to become a TV producer. Somebody put me in front of this camera, and that was it. It was 1987, I think. And then I was chosen to move to NBC in London. I became one of the main anchors of NBC that started the network, the satellite televisions in the Arab world. I had a flagship TV show. It was live, and then I had another TV show, which was a talk show with 3 other ladies, and it went on and on and on until 2016 when I resigned. And I resigned. I wanted to resign because I thought I had nothing else to give to the screen, to the people. So I decided, you know what, maybe I just resign at the top, and that's when I decided I would do that. And I opened my companies. One of them was in Lebanon. It was called Our Stars Talent Management. It was a management company, but unfortunately, because of the situation in Lebanon, I could not continue. Then I opened a large theater. Also didn't work out because of the situation, and it was bad management. It was a very wrong investment. I left everything and I came back to London in 2020 after the explosion in Beirut, where I lost everything. Like every Lebanese who lives close to that area, lost their businesses, lost their money, nearly lost my child. Thank God I did not. And I decided, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I'm moving back to London. And I did. Opened Authentic Woman after I studied to become a coach. I studied for a couple of years and I became a licensed coach. And here I am.
Great. Beautiful. I mean, there's always something beautiful emerging from the struggle we had in Lebanon, each one of us.
Yes.
You have such an inspiring story. What was the shift, the moment that you knew that you need to make that transition into coaching? What was the driving force beside of losing the business and the money?
I'm going to be very frank.
You go in that direction specifically, coaching?
I became very sick in 2021. And I had to be, but I was bedridden for about 9 months, I think. And before that, I was dabbling into coaching and taking courses. I wasn't taking it that seriously. I was just taking courses because I love learning new things. I just love learning. And I decided it goes hand in hand with teaching TV production, public speaking, and TV interviewing, because it's a big psychology. You know, the psychology of the person you're teaching while you're coaching them something else. So that's how I started the coaching. When I started taking it seriously, when I was bedridden for that amount of time, and I decided I will definitely become licensed. And I started getting more professional training, and I trained with many coaches in England, online, because of course, during that time we were all in our homes because of the pandemic. And it was a very enjoyable trip. With all the pain that I was feeling, I had something to look up to and look forward to. So that was my trajectory then, and that what made me do the switch.
Amazing. And what did you learn about yourself during this tough time when you were in bed?
I learned many things myself, many things. I learned first that I have amazing friends. I have a wonderful family, unbelievable daughters. That's my first takeaway from that. I became more in tune with my religion, and I'm a very spiritual person anyway. So I studied that a little bit more. I started reading a little bit more. I learned that I can easily stop saying no about everything, because I'm a very stubborn person. And the no is very easy for me to come by. So I said, no, I used to be very difficult to persuade. And I stopped saying no. I started listening more when I learned the coaching, and I started understanding, you can listen, you can hear somebody, and you already have your answers ready. But when you stop and you listen and you really give it your all, then there's a switch there. And that's how I got to know myself more. And I got to know myself as a more of a compassionate human being, that I was just stubborn for being stubborn because I had it rough, and I became much more mellow with that time.
It seems like it was a period of rebirth or recreating yourself.
Definitely. I definitely I could say that, because some people, when they have adversities in life, they just ask, why me? I never did that. I never asked why me. I was thinking, okay, now what? I was told you will never walk again. You'll have to be on a wheelchair. So many things. I was told so many things, but I decided, that's not me. That's really not me. And I decided I have to work on myself. I have to understand my body. I have to eat well. I have to get my mind over matter. The mindset has to change. And that's how you say the rebirth has occurred in my life, because when you change your mind, when you trick your mind into something, it just happens. And that's how I learned that I can trick my mind. People told me all my life, you can trick your mind. I was trying to, but I wasn't able to. And I did during that time, and it worked. And
Great. We have some people joining. Just I want to mention that this is an engaging session. So anytime you have a question, please unmute and ask the question. And if you don't want to unmute, you can type this question in the chat. We will see it and answer. Can you tell us more? Yeah, Fawzi, sorry, go ahead.
I'm really curious. I met Rania in person when she visited Kuwait. And by the way, she also contributes to the growth and learning of the young generation who are interested to become in the media or TV presenters. And this is something else that I will leave her to talk about it later, but this is not my question. My question for Rania, I'm curious, because you mentioned something quite unique in your journey, that I would call it from no to yes. And this departure and taking off from no to yes, I assume that it was challenging. And there was back and forth. Could you elaborate more on this?
Sure. I'm a very stubborn human being. If I think about something and I'm always right, you know. For me, I'm always right because I'm right, because I've studied it, I've researched it, and I know myself. I know this is right. This is how I used to think about things. When somebody brings another point of view after I finished doing all my work, somebody comes in and says, you know something, this doesn't work. And I said, no, it does work. Why, Rania? Just listen to me, you know? And I used to never listen, never. That's my way or the highway. In my work, with my daughters, and home, with my sisters, it was just my way or the highway. I pretend sometimes, I used to pretend that I'm listening to them and saying, yes, your opinion matters, but it wasn't really. Their opinion never mattered to me. Nobody's opinion mattered to me. It was my opinion. Yeah. Maisa is like, yeah, I kind of identify.
Resonates.
So when I was sick, and I was reading so much about self-development, one of the books that I'd love to recommend is this one. This is a self-discovery book, and it has lots of exercises. And I have other books as well. I read a lot of self-development books that helped me exercise myself and my will and my stubbornness into, it's like you're molding yourself again. And reading the Quran also helped a lot, because funnily enough, I don't let sheikhs or people explain it to me. I explain it to myself. I don't need people to explain, scripture for me. I can explain it for myself. So I found it so easy and flexible. And the life of the Prophet was so flexible, although he was a prophet. And I was saying, why am I so stubborn in my ways? Why am I so set up in my ways? I just need to give some leeway. So the first time I realized I'm saying yes is when my daughter said, maybe we need to take you to hospital. I was so adamant, I'm not going to go to hospital. First time in my life I say, okay. And she was like, she was ready for a fight. I had put no fight. Absolutely none. No resistance. And she was like, are you okay? Should I call the emergency? Should I call the ambulance? Is it that bad? I said, no, I'm just listening to you, and maybe you're right. And that's how I discovered I'm like really sick. So really sick. So, and they discovered what I've had. And that's how I realized, it's not that bad. Okay, I can work with that, And then I decided to work some more on myself, Fawzi, by training my brain to accept more than one point of view. And how I did that was, and if I have an idea, I look for other ideas that look the same, that seem the same, and I see which one works better. And that's how I trained myself to say, yes, maybe, and let's look into it.
That's powerful. What I always notice with successful, independent women, that often they don't find it easy to either ask for help or accept help. Because, in your mind, we've done it on our own. So it resonates. Everything you are saying resonates with me, because you think the ego will tell you, you are strong, you don't need anyone. And then you reach a stage that you fully understand and accept the fact that it is okay to accept help from at least those who are closer, your family, your kids.
Yeah.
And this is powerful. Thank you for sharing such a personal experience.
Yeah, that's what made me who I am. Personal experiences make you the person who you are, and that's why I decided to help women like me. That's the reason I decided. There's so many women out there that need that don't know where to start from, and I can just be the guiding light there. It's like. And that's how I started deciding on women. That was my niche. Remember, we have to choose our niches. And that's how I chose my niche.
So your niche is women. Do you help them on a personal level, professional level? You are a life and career coach.
So how do I do that? Every woman who feels that she's at a crossroad, that she does not know how to move forward, and she's stuck, whether she's just got a divorce, the empty nest syndrome, she's starting a new career, she's confused, she has so many goals, she doesn't know where to start from. I come in and declutter her brain. That's how I do. I just declutter. And we take it step by step, and you know the rest. You start with the first goal, and you reach it, and you make her accountable for her steps and all of that. So that's why I wanted to work with women, because they're so smart. They just need somebody to listen and to put steps in front of them. So look, there it is, there it is, by asking the right questions. And that's how I decided.
Amazing.
You know, it's interesting. You learned how to not say no. And a lot of my clients, I have to help them to learn how to say no, because they don't say no enough. And it's finding that balance between the two, where I think being able to say no is actually a strength, as long as it's not overused.
Absolutely.
At the same time, being open to new concepts and things. And I'm curious, you had said that you have an opinion, and your opinion is right, and whatever anyone else says, it's not. When you're coaching an individual and you start to feel that in the back of your head of, my opinion is, I don't want it to come out, what do you do to keep it from
I bite my tongue so hard. I just this is the thing. You are so right. Sometimes you just want to, there's a very big difference between mentoring somebody and coaching them. So I ask permission sometimes. Sometimes I ask permission. Is it okay if I mentor you now? Because she reached probably a place where she's just so confused, and she cannot go any further. And I know that she should take the next step this way, to the right, not to the left. And I ask permission. Is it okay if I tell you something of my own experience without telling her what to do? Sometimes I, tweak the truth a little bit to guide her into the frame of thought that she should be in. I don't lie to them. I just tweak the truth a little bit, so as to help her think clearer. And that's how I stop my opinion from overpowering the conversation. And I think women, they're smart, of course, and men and people are smart. They know that you are guiding them that way. You cannot lead somebody. You can just help them think straight and broaden their thoughts process for them to get to where they want to go. But sometimes when they're completely stuck, you can, I think, share something of yours, an idea, a thought, an experience that could help them reach where they want to go faster.
Yeah, I try to frame mine in the concept of experimentation. So if we were to experiment with something else, what's another approach that we could take?
Yeah.
Just hoping that they'll go into the approach that I'm thinking is at the tip of their tongue, but it's just not coming off yet. And I think a lot of times for me, what I've learned is, when you can help your client to feel comfortable enough where they know they're not being judged, that whatever they say, it's just there. Let's talk about it. Let's play around. And then the experiment isn't something that's set in stone. So if it works, that's great. Let's see how we can incorporate it. If it doesn't work, let's figure out maybe how we can tweak it to see if it will work a little bit better, or maybe that's just not an approach. So then what's another approach that we could take?
That's good. The experimentation is a very good idea. Yeah. It's also when you experiment, you're putting an idea in that experiment and you're allowing them to play with that within that frame of the experiment, which is a very smart thing to do.
I find that people they're much more open to experimenting than they are to trying something.
Yes.
And it's the same thing, really. I mean,
Same thing.
I tried to use or there's a quote that I'll use from Thomas Edison. It took him 10,000 times before he created the incandescent filament in a light bulb.
Yes.
He didn't look at the 9,999 times as failures. Those were opportunities for him to learn. And he learned from each one of those. So he wasn't a failure just because it didn't work before. It was just like, okay, let me try something else. And eventually he found what actually worked. So experimenting works quite well with that.
Absolutely. But sometimes I feel that some women that I work with, they're just so afraid to try something new. They're so afraid to break from that shell because they've been living a very sheltered life or a very dominant, submissive life from a dominant husband or a father or a brother or even a son. And they are afraid to dream even or to have an ambition. And it takes me such a long time to go through the whole, and I try not to become a therapist because sometimes they open up so much and they think they're talking to their best friend. So there's always this limit that you need to put between you and your client, and getting them to open up without allowing their emotions to take over is a very tricky thing. Because once their emotions take over, you become a therapist, and we are not qualified therapists. And I need to stop that immediately. And I do that. I stop and I say, we're going to stop the session for a few seconds until you collect yourself and your emotions, and then we can continue. And if she wants to continue more about, going on and on and on, I will need to tell her, I'm not a therapist. I cannot help you in that idea. I need to help you in your train of thoughts. I need to help you clarify your thoughts. But other than that, I cannot help you. And that's where I become, sometimes they don't understand that there's a big difference between a therapist and a coach, especially people who did not have coaching sessions before.
Yeah, people usually do not know the difference between coaching, counseling, or therapy. I personally I'm not always afraid of dealing with emotions, but what you are doing is very important, because women, especially in this part of the world, are conditioned.
Yes.
So they don't know what is their dream, because they have been brought up in a way that the dream is a certain thing. Probably family. I'm not underestimating the importance of, having a family and raising.
No, of course not. Of course not.
However, she doesn't have to give up on her own dreams.
Yeah.
And being a coach, part of it is empowering them and inviting them to look at the situation from different perspectives, and probably, raising awareness around where they are stuck or struggling. Amazing. And I would like to ask about the tools. Do you give them any tools? What are the tools you give them?
Women?
Yeah, in general, any clients. You only coach women?
Sometimes I coach men and young men in specific. Their mothers actually send them to me. I've coached 2 young men recently in Kuwait, funnily enough, who mixed the there was a mix between public speaking and communication skills and tools of how to become a better active human being. So we combined those teachings by a lot of exercises. We did so many role playing. And because it was face-to-face, we were able to do that. I can't do role-playing online because it doesn't work properly. But I switch a lot between the brothers. I switched a lot between them. And the results we got were fantastic. I mean, the mother, she came back to me and said, you brought back my child. One of them is an introvert. You brought back my child, and now we actually talk. We never talk. The other one, it doesn't shut up, but this one does not talk to me. And now he's talking and he's sharing and he's like standing up and he's writing and not in a shell anymore. And for me, it was a miracle, because the guy came to me. I didn't think he was such an introvert. With me, he was a shy, polite human being, but it took a lot for me to peel away in order for me to get to the person that he really is. And it was really a discovery. It was beautiful.
That's amazing. You know, when we talk about public speaking, there's always fear.
Yes.
Even for the most successful people, that they have spent years, and like I have my best friend, I always tell her, how do you feel when you go and address hundreds of people? And she's like, Maisa, I'm always nervous before I go on the stage. And I personally, you know, I have the fear of public speaking. I'm talkative. You can put me in small group and I can talk forever. Just don't put me in the public eye. I'm a very shy person. So what is it, that fear? How can we overcome that fear?
You will
As
never
coaches,
overcome fear.
As coaches or regular people.
The minute you overcome fear, you become overconfident, you make mistakes. Fear protects you. Fear protects you from making a mistake. Now, being fearful from talking and the anxiety that you feel, the stress that you feel, that has exercises. We do a lot of breathing exercises. We do a lot of visualization. We do a lot of, we walk a lot to the place where we're going to do the speech itself. We record our speech. We know the speech inside out, in order for us to be so confident when we go out, that the fear that you have in the beginning, which is the first minute, dissipates once you see people interested in what you're saying and you have good eye contact with them. You feel part of it. You start with a joke, you start with a story, you start with something like that. Then you have this, the audience becomes putty in your hand. You have to break your speech with anecdotes. You have to break your speech with personal stories. You have to make it relatable to your audience. And that's how they are so interested. They don't care if you make a mistake. You make a small mistake, you apologize and you continue, or you laugh at yourself and you make it, you know, a big thing. If it's really a big thing, then you make it a big thing with them. This way, they don't laugh at you, they laugh with you. So these are techniques we teach for people to overcome their fear on stage, but it takes a long time. Some people can't, they just freeze. They just freeze, and they have to do presentations. They have to talk in front of people. So it takes quite a long time for us to do that. But it's an enjoyable journey, because we record them at the beginning of the sessions, and then we record them again at the end. And the difference is, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's one of my favorite workshops, public speaking. It's actually very, very, because I can see how they start and I see how they end. And it's very enjoyable.
I think even changing the mindset of, rather than fear, which is a negative thing, adrenaline, which is energy. And helping people understand what you're feeling is adrenaline. It's not necessarily fear that you're feeling. It's adrenaline and what you do with that adrenaline. Goes on further, and you present you prepare and memorize your presentation. If you make a mistake, no one else knows that you've made a mistake. Only you do. So
that's all. I always tell them that nobody else knows.
They look at you as the expert in that particular time. So let that adrenaline feed your expertise. Because people have come here to hear your expertise. And I found that that's always helped with my clients when I help them with that.
It does help. It does. It's how to utilize the fear to your advantage and not let it cripple you. Fantastic. Yes.
Fawzi, you had something to say? You unmuted.
Yes, actually, I love the title of today's session, From Fame to Fulfillment. And there are so many questions I have in this title, but I will only have two small parts that I would like to ask Rania. Fame, I relate it to success, which we are all inspired and we work towards to be successful people. And you have reached the pinnacle in the field as a TV presenter. So there are words of advice for people who are seeking success / fame, words of wisdom. What would you tell them?
I'm not a very wise person.
You preached to yes, Rania. So that's
What
a lot of
I
wisdom.
reached it by being stubborn, Fauzi. I reached it by being very stubborn because, you know, if I tell you now, how I began was very funny because my father was a very traditional Arab Muslim man who sent his daughter to London by herself, you know, to learn to become a TV presenter. For that time, it was unheard of in our countries, in the Arab world, in Lebanon, in the 80s, in the early 90s. It was unheard of. What happened later, what happened later in my life, how I reached where I reached, was because I never let anything divert or take me out from the road I've put for myself. I was seeing something. I wanted to become not famous. Famous was never the thing I wanted. I actually didn't like becoming famous. What I wanted to become was the best. And for that, I was watching very good presenters and I was learning from them. There were no workshops before. And there were no schools of TV presenting before in the 80s and the 90s. So I was watching people I admire, like Oprah, like David Letterman, the style of the technique of interviewing. And I took a lot from Christiane Amanpour, although I don't do politics, but I like the way she researches her topics. And she does not leave one stone unturned. And that's how I learned that research is the main important thing during an interview. And that brought me to many places and that opened many doors for me, many, many doors. People liked the way I interview them because I never try and belittle them or try and get them to feel awkward or bring some sort of I don't know, bad stories about them. I don't. I ask them to tell me stories about them, and I don't know why. I was never a coach before that. I was in my 20s, and I was like, I like to listen to them, and that's how I gained people's trust. They realize when they come to my show that I'm not going to make them look ridiculous. I'm actually going to make them look great. Whether it was a singer or an actor or a poet, you know, I began with entertainment shows. Then when we did Kalam Nawaim, the talk show, I was a very well-read human being. So whenever I touched upon a topic, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And wherever the guest would like to take us, I was there for them. So that's where you need to I think that's the main important thing by being a TV presenter and TV interviewer is you know exactly what you're talking about, or else and I was saying that to my students, or else you're just a parrot, you're parroting things. And I did say this in class when you were there, remember? I hope you remember that research is the main important thing for anybody to get to where they are, and knowing without showing off the information. You have the information as ammunition, but you never show off that you have the information. And I think that was one of the main things that helped me get to where I am today. Other than that, the pain is also a very big catalyst, because you have to disregard, or else you're just going to wither and die, or you become depressed, or you start taking pills, something I never did, never. With everything I've been through so much in my life. And they were catastrophes. I mean, catastrophes. If I look back, I go, oh my God, you know, how did I survive this? But I did. And I always pat myself on the back. I'm very, very happy with where I've become today. There was no cheerleader for me. I was only supported by my friends. They were not cheerleaders, they were supporters. My daughters were always looking up to me. I could not let them down. I'm divorced twice. So in order for them to be raised whole wholesome. I could not let them see that I am affected negatively by anything or anyone. And that's how now my daughter at 25 just opened her own company, you know, in Dubai, and she's leaving me and going, and, you know, she has her own life now. At 25, I was still an employee. She has her own company with her own employees, and she's there. My other daughter is opening a clinic soon. She's a psychologist. So, and she's 21. So I know that I did something right there. Independent women. And that's how, and that was, I think, from my mother. My mother did not finish college. She did not finish school even. And she was always telling me, if I did, I would have been something else about herself. She wouldn't have died so early because she would have had something to look forward to. And she used to always tell me, learn every day, read a book, research, do something, learn something new. And the minute you feel uncomfortable, change your position, go somewhere else. And I did that all my life. The minute I feel uncomfortable in a country, I leave and I start again somewhere else. That's what I teach my children too.
That's so inspiring, Rania. Oh my God.
Thank you.
Very, very
the
inspiring,
impact.
and yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I'm mindful of the time, but I want to go to the second part of the question. So now, from okay, let's call it being the best to fulfillment.
Yeah.
So
I'm not fulfilled yet. I still want more. You know, my next step, what it is, it's an academy. And there is I've put the first steps in Saudi, and I'm helping Faria in Loyak to do an academy in Kuwait as well. So that's my next step. So that's when I probably, I don't think I'll be ever fulfilled. No, every day I want something new. And I would love to, if my body allows me, I will definitely die doing something, doing something new at probably 95, 98, something like that.
By the way, Faria is the chairman of Loyak, which is an NGO in Kuwait empowering youth with wonderful programs. And this is how I have met beautiful Rania and learned a lot from her, like all other participants. So I see Loyak is growing, and now there is another growth for Loyak with Rania being there as well.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
You know, you are a life learner, and although you made that move to coaching recently, but you've always been curious. And this is the most important thing for coaches, to be curious and to have the ability to listen without judgment, and being humble. And this is all you've already mastered in previous careers.
Alhamdulillah,
Alhamdulillah. I want to talk about presence, because it is very important for coaches and for non-coaches, how we choose to show up in life. What is the most important thing for mastering a powerful presence?
Okay. That's a very good question.
Behind the camera or in front of the camera? I mean, especially in the last few years, we have moved to more online due to the pandemic. But now a lot of people are more comfortable with online meetings.
Yes.
So what is presence, and what can we do to improve it?
By presence, you mean being there, your whole mind and body being where you are at the moment?
Yes. I mean, sometimes a person will enter a room and you can feel their presence. So it can be the charisma, it can be the confidence, it can be the knowledge, the wisdom. I have no idea. I don't know the exact, definition of presence. It varies from one person to another. But it is.
I believe myself. I believe it's a combination of what you just said. It's somebody who you cannot teach charisma. You either have charisma or you don't. And I believe also that the presence, you cannot also teach presence, but what you can teach is confidence. You can teach somebody to become confident by, again, tricking the mind into visualizing you entering a room and scanning it and talking to people and knowing what you're talking about. And that exudes presence, that exudes confidence, and it exudes charisma as well, because it's a trick. If somebody is there and is not feeling themselves there, it doesn't work. But you have to trick yourself into, if you are not there 100%. But if you actually know everything you're talking about, you know why you're entering this room, you know what you want from it at the end of the day, you know what the outcome is and what you want it to become, then you are entering, half of the battle is already done. You're entering with a mission, with a goal. But if you're entering, like, let's say at a dinner and you don't know anybody there, okay, you're just looking around, you don't exude that confidence. You can't. You will look like you're lost. But if you walk straight to a table, people will look and say, who is this person? Because you walk in with confidence. Your stride is I don't know, just straight up, you know, and you're intending to go to that table. It's completely different when you're just entering a room and looking around, not knowing, and then you're seeing somebody and going there. Oh, hi, you know, that's different than walking, standing in the middle of the room, going to where you want to go. That's the presence that you really want at the end of the day. Plus, being present is also being humble, and it's also being a good listener, and it's also being a good person who knows what they're talking about, because we can be, you know, a know-it-all, go into a room, pretend that we know it all, and at the end of the day, I'm going to come out and say, she thinks she knows it all. You know, I would read through you. So come prepared. When you want to go into a room, come prepared. Come prepared, everything, with all the weapons that you have, your knowledge, your beautiful clothing, your very nice makeup, your beautiful hair, and just be there. Gentlemen, nice clothing, beautiful, you know, a nice smile, always eye contact, and knowledge. The know-how of why you want to enter this room, who you're meeting in there, what you want out of this room. And that's I think some of it. But that's it. That's a very long conversation, Maisa.
Yeah, we are just trying to cover what we can cover. And you mentioned not presence only, the appearance.
Yes, appearance.
And probably you can tell us a little bit more about the first impression, because I always talk about the first impression. You have few seconds to make an impression, the way you dress, the way, you know, you talk.
Yeah, you do. It takes, I think, 8 seconds for somebody to make an impression from top to toe. Starting with shoes, believe it or not. Starting with the nails, and what kind of nails people have, if they're clean or not, and if they're nicely manicured and they're all the same length for men, and if you always notice body language from the way what they're wearing. If they love what they're wearing, they're more confident in the way they talk to you, and if they're not comfortable in what they're wearing, they try to hide themselves and sit in a corner. Plus, why are we also, when you go out, you need to make sure that the jacket doesn't fall back, the bras doesn't show, the bra strap doesn't show, you know, a lot of cleavage, not cleavage. Makeup is not all over the place. Men is, you know, a nice, beautiful loafers, or the dockside is not allowed when you're going to a formal outing. All of these things are, they're taken into consideration. Why? Because you are the first person, title, headline to the next step. You are the headline to either your presentation or to your proposal or to your dinner party or anything. You're there, you're introducing the next thing about you, whatever it is. So yeah, We should look good and we should feel good about ourselves.
True, true. And now this session is recorded and many women, I'm sure, will watch it later. What advice would you give them to not only master their life, but to be truly fulfilled and successful?
Oh.
Like few advices from your own experience on personal and professional level. You've been through a lot of, struggles.
Yeah.
And you beautifully overcame a lot of things and recreated yourself. So for those ladies that are watching you now, what would be your message to them?
That although it's cliche a little bit, but there's always a tomorrow. No matter what we're going through today, there's always tomorrow. And we should look forward to tomorrow, because there are so many things we can do. And have a to-do list. Don't wait for things to happen. Make them happen. Ask the right questions. And if you don't know the right questions, ask somebody, what can I do? How can I find out my trajectory, my goal? Where can I go from here? If you don't have a coach, get a coach. Coaches help a lot, and they help clarify your thoughts. They help you get to where you want to go. They just light the road for you. They just make it look better. But the rest is all up to you. You need to ask a lot of questions. You need to find out what you really want in life, and never, ever, ever give up, ever, because what's the point of giving up? What's the point of giving up? I mean, every day there's something new that happens. Every day that we might fall into the trap of, oh my God, what's happening today? I can't face it. I can't face it. But there's so many women. Look at other women. I mean, we're so lucky. We are so lucky that we are available and for each other, one, and we have other outlets to help us reach to where we want to reach. Other women and other men don't have that. I mean, if you look at war zones, if you look at poor countries, if you look at, famines, if you look at all those, they don't have that chance. I can't say I'm depressed when other people are living in dire straits. I can't. I'm not allowed to. I can't allow myself to do that. So all I advise is, don't give up. Just never, ever, ever give up. And ask someone. If you can help, ask someone how I can help. And if you need help, ask for help.
And for those who want to ask for your help, where they can find you?
Oh, I have a LinkedIn account. It's called Rania Barghout. I have an Instagram account, and I have my Facebook account, and I have my website, which is it's very funny, www.thenextchapter.cool. I couldn't find com or net or co or anything. I found cool, so I took it.
That cool is really cool.
It is cool, isn't it?
So I love the next chapter. I love the next chapter. There's always next chapter.
There's always a next chapter. Yes, there's always a next chapter.
Excellent.
Definitely.
Anyone has any question before we wrap it up?
No.
Since it's about advices, recommendations, one of the things that resonated with me, Rania, and it had an impact on you when you mentioned what your mother told you, keep going, keep developing, keep growing, keep learning. Never let a moment without really making the best out of it.
Yes.
So what do you tell your daughters?
Well, I say all of these things, and I tell them your grandmother says. So because sometimes my daughters are as stubborn as I am, or I was. So
I wonder from where did they get it?
I want to hold. So I said, I used to say, I still say, my mom, so it's your grandmother, and you know, you look so much like my mother. I trick her. You still have her mannerisms, you know. I trick my daughters into saying, to get them to understand that my mother actually said these things. One. Secondly, I always tell them, because I had bad experiences with men, not to learn from my mistake. I mean, not to learn from, no, I want to make this correctly, not to be discouraged from my mistakes, you know, and that my mistakes have been because of certain circumstances at that time, and it's not their problem. They have to learn their own experiences, make their own mistakes, and enjoy whatever they do. Never ever relate back to me because I failed in that. They are not going to fail because they have learned from my mistakes. I also teach them how to be completely independent financially. And that's the main important thing, that they have to be independent financially, no matter who they marry, no matter how rich their husband is. They still have to be independent financially, no matter what happens to them. I have a lot of teachings to my daughters. Every single day, I think of something new and I start giving them my wisdom.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Rania.
And I wanted to say something about my mom. God bless her soul. My mom was with me every single day I record something on television. She used to be the person I look through the lens to. In the beginning, when she was alive, every time I finish a TV show, she used to call me and say, "Shili al-ghara, take your hair off your face and sit up straight, smile more." And she used to give me all those beautiful, and then she goes, "You look so beautiful." And she goes, "That's because I am beautiful, right?" And I go, "Yeah." And we had this thing between my mother and I every single day. And we used to watch TV together. I'm in London, she's in Beirut. We put the phone on, we watch a movie together. And the relationship, that made me a strong person. That relationship made me a strong person. Even when she was sick and she was about to die, she was very aware, the very last minute, who came into her room, who spoke to her, who said goodbye to her. She was a very aware woman. She taught me so much. And I hope to be 1/3 of what she ever taught me. And I hope my daughters do too. Because strong women who didn't learn how to be strong, who have faced all this, you know, no school, no independence, no nothing. But she was such a strong woman that she knew what's right and what's wrong, and how to sit, putting one leg on the other and hold a cigarette like that. That was my mom. And she was a great mother. So yeah, that's the last thing I'd like to leave you with, because we are each other's, one another, let's say, how do you say? We are each other's
Extension.
Push. No, we push each other. Extension? No, we're not each other's extension. We push each other to become better, people. And I think that's the last thing I'd like to say. Yes.
Thank you. Lina, hi. We are wrapping up. I'm sorry, but the session is recorded. So you will be able to listen to the interview later on. But thank you for joining. And Rania, I can't thank you enough for sharing your inspiring stories, your wisdom. You know, I was looking forward for this session, and we had to stop it for some reasons. And I don't know, but I have a feeling that we will have many other sessions in the future, because you have a lot to offer. Strong, independent, successful woman. You are a role model.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Maisa, for inviting me to become one of the speakers. And I really appreciate it. And you guys are doing something really, really very good. I think us as coaches, at the end of the day, we're here for people, and all they have to do is pick up the phone or write us an email, and we're there for them. And that's what's beautiful about this.
Thank you.
And I join what Maysa has just said. There is never enough of Rania. So I
thank
look
you.
forward for number 2, number 3, and
Yeah,
there is
I'm
a lot
available.
to learn from, really.
Inshallah,
Thank you.
inshallah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Nice to
Thank
meet you
you.
all. I see you
You too.
again. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
مع السلامة.